Hello, everybody. My name is Vicky Jeter, and I am the Practitioner Contract Spiritual Director for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living Teaching Chapter. I would like to welcome you to this recording. This particular recording is unique because we had some technical challenges with Zoom for this recording, and we're unable to show the actual video. We have the audio perfectly, and we're going to match the audio to the PowerPoint that I used for this presentation so that you'll have the entire content, but you just won't be able to see the visual video of the speakers throughout the presentation. But the content is all there, and we very much hope that you enjoy it. And thank you. We were doing a little testing coming in to the launching of this particular service. And so now I will especially say it is my pleasure and my privilege to greet you. Good morning, beautiful people. I am Vicky Jeter, your practitioner spiritual director for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living Teaching Chapter. Now, today's service is special for two reasons. One, we're going to be taking a refreshing look at love. And after some of the other topics we've been talking about, I was like, oh, this is just going to be expansive and a lot of fun. So in many ways, the English language and our modern culture misuse or overuse the word love to the extent it literally loses its meaning that's meant to convey for us. So that's why I'm so much looking forward to coming down to an understanding of the clarity of the use of that word and what we can do with it in a spectrum kind of way. And also, the second reason is that I'm dedicating this service to the memory of Dr. Tom Sannar. And Vernon, can you show us the first slide, please? We're doing a little unique this morning. Dr. Tom was a beloved instructor at Holmes Institute, and he recently made his transition. I wanted to introduce you to Dr. Tom because he was an example for me and all his students of total passion and purpose in living this teaching that we call the science of mind. So almost all of today's service comes from what I learned from Dr. Tom. And so the material and the quotes, whether I say that they're from him or from the exact quote, are either going to be from Dr. Ernest Holmes or Judge Thomas Troward. And with that in mind, let's take the moment to set our intention. Just take a moment to breathe and settle in and ask yourself, what brought me here today? What is my inspiration today? What piece of my masterpiece am I painting today? And our shared intention for this service is to experience together how everything in our spiritual and human lives is an expression of love, eternal, inexhaustible, the love of divine spirit. We'll be considering the love that we are and how that one source manifests on a spectrum of all the uniqueness we see, our personal experience of love and loving, and options for responding from love in challenging situations. Now moving into opening prayer, taking all of that and settling in to the point of stillness that is the seat of first cause. We begin from gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Spirit, for the gift of this life, for this opportunity, for the ability to come together from all points across the nation and the world in our intention and in consciousness, and share these principles, share the opportunity to embody and practice more fully that there is the essence of love moving through our human experience of love as the giving and receiving of the gift of life, and how we can do that more fully. And I know that this time is guided and directed. I open us in mind, heart, and soul to be receptive as vessels of spirit. Thank you. Thank you. With the heart of a child, I release it to the law to be made manifest here and now. I let it be, and so it is. And so we do indeed welcome each and every one of you to Louisville Center for Spiritual Living Teaching Chapter. Whether you're here with us for the first time today or joining us on Zoom, thank you for your presence, because you are why we are here. And we start each day greeting God, the angels, the guides, and guards. Louisville Center for Spiritual Living is an entity, and each and every one of you, Vernon and I, light the God candle, and we intend that that be a beacon of light for those who are seeking and those who have found. Know that you are welcome, no matter what your path of life or what your questions are today. We welcome all of that. And now we open with our opening song, We Welcome You, Spirit, by Kai Lee.
We welcome you, Spirit, as we gather here to love one another in ways you make clear. We lift up our hearts in joy and open our minds. We welcome you, Spirit, in this holy time. We welcome you, Spirit, as we gather here to love one another in ways you make clear. We lift up our hearts in joy and open our minds. We welcome you, Spirit, in this holy time. We welcome you, Spirit, in this holy time.
I love, love, love that song. This brings us to our mission and vision. The mission of Louisville Center for Spiritual Living is to teach personal transformation as a virtual community, living the principles of science of mind, and celebrating all paths to God, which results in our vision of a world that honors and respects all people. So, spiritual living, actually putting all four tires on the pavement, is only as good as we can relate to it. So each week we have an application of what we believe, which is intended for you to be able to actually work with and move forward and bring into discussion. Like at times after service, we have discussion time, or with friends and family. So this week's application of what we believe is: never miss an opportunity to say, I love you. Better still, create the opportunities. To love abundantly is to live abundantly, and to love forever is to live forever. That's by Henry Drummond. And now for our sacred reading and meditation. Sometimes the practitioner of the week will just roll right through kind of seamlessly, but I told our practitioner of the week this week, I really want to stop and take the time to introduce her, because it's a little bit of a rarity that she brings us our sacred reading and meditation. And so, with great applause, Miss Pat Ferguson, our mystic intern with our sacred reading and meditation.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction. I will say if you hear a little nip and bark in the background, it's a puppy that is high on life, and we'll try to keep him uh, satisfied through this. We're going to start in meditative position. We're going to uh, hear some quotes by different people on love in the spectrum and diversity. And we're going to take a few minutes between each, not minutes, seconds between each one, and dwell on them and how they might improve our life. From that, the last one will be a line from the Bible that we've all heard at weddings 100 times, but then we'll have a little prayer and you can stay in meditation during that. So relax into your position, close your eyes if that feels good. Take a deep breath. Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. Maya Angelou. To love is to let those we love be perfectly themselves and not to twist them to fit our image. Otherwise, we only love the reflection of ourselves we find in them. Thomas Merton. We inhabit a world that is characterized by diversity. Desmond Tutu. Imagine a world where sunsets were always the same color, or forest only had one kind of plant, or food only ever had one flavor. Imagining this, it's easy to recognize the importance of diversity. Mary Jane Yates. Remember this: whoever you are, however you are equally valid, equally justified, and equally beautiful. Juno Dawson. As we live more and more in the vibration of love, peace, abundance, and harmony within yourself, you actually begin to perceive those same qualities in your environment. It is as if you see, hear, and feel that everything that is happening is serving something good. Once you give yourself permission to love no matter what, the outer world has no choice but to reflect back the image of unconditional love. When you live in a space of gratitude, celebration, and joy that includes everyone, where all are welcome and you see yourself in them, you finally get to have the life Spirit came here to live. Sue Morter. God clearly loves diversity. All we need to do is look at the animal world, the world under the sea, or each human being. Who of us looks exactly alike? Is there any evidence to show where in all creation God prefers uniformity? Richard Rohr. Knowing that we can be loved exactly as we are gives us all the best opportunities for growing into the healthiest of people. Fred Rogers. There are three things that last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Corinthians 13:9. I believe in the eternal spirit divine and nothing else. I call spirit by the names divine life and love. Divine life is whole, perfect, complete. Love has created everything from within itself. There is only love, and everything lives, moves, and exists in love. Everything comes from love and goes back to this love. Divine life expresses through me as love. That which is true of spirit is true of me and true of you. There is nothing that can ever separate us from spirit. Spirit in human form is what we are. Love is what we are. Love is everything there is. I accept and speak this word to be so for myself on behalf of you and all. We declare and affirm all thoughts, feelings, and actions and are aligned with the indwelling vibration of love. We rejoice in the release of all doubts and fears and open up to the limitless love that the universe that flows throughout the universe. All thoughts or beliefs that are not associated with love are now dissolved, and thoughts of kindness, compassion, and understanding flow freely. Love is our GPS. Love radiates in the interconnectedness of us all. The divine spark in every person is seen, and all people are treated with love, respect, and kindness. We are vessels of love, and we use it to transform any situation or circumstance into an opportunity for growth and understanding. Humanity awakens to its spiritual magnificence. We love out loud, bravely, boldly, and authentically. In deep gratitude for this truth and its manifestation, I release this prayer into the law. It is done in spirit and on earth, and so it is. Vicky.
For people to be able to let that find its place within you. And now, as we move into special music, I want to take just a moment for this because it is very special. It is a video tribute to Jim Henson, whose passion and purpose brought us an entire universe of love on a spectrum through the beloved Muppets. So, as you take this in, I want you to know that the song and the singing of the song, we're going to have another opportunity for. So, just really absorb the visual of this, and then we'll go from there.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions and only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, a rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, a rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep? Have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, a rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La dee da da doo, la 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 la.
Who all needs a tissue? Oh my goodness. You know, watching those things and seeing everything that his crew had to put into how they brought those characters to life is so touching. And also, it just really strikes me that when you see him with Kermit, you know that Kermit is actually Jim Henson's soul. It's just a beautiful thing. Now, I'm going to take a little diversion from what we've been talking about to drop back to our application of what we believe for today, because some of you may have noticed that the name Henry Drummond is is new and different. And I did take that from my research in Dr. Sannar's materials. So I want to take a moment to introduce you to Henry Drummond. And Vernon, could you put up the slide, please? And Henry Drummond is a golden nugget from the history of Ernest Holmes' family. And I know some of us are particularly interested in anchoring those roots and really understanding where Ernest Holmes got his, like global universal inspiration. Ernest's mother was Anna Heath Holmes, and she was really the first to introduce all her sons to the truth that science and spirituality are one. And this was through the works of Henry Drummond. And Henry Drummond was both an evangelist, minister, and a biologist. And he wrote and spoke prolifically with conviction that science and spirituality are one from one universal source and work together. This was going on in Ernest's life from the time he was about 5 years old. And the part that really knocks me out is you'll notice Henry Drummond only lived 46 years. Can you imagine if someone could give him a crystal ball now to see how his wisdom and conviction contributed to changing the world? So you can go ahead and take the slide down, Vernon. The foundation of the message today, which has plenty of potential for discussion, is that all of existence is the inspiration of spirit expressing to be. And Ernest Holmes put it this way: spirit is all life, truth, love, being, cause, and effect. It is the only power in the universe, and it knows itself. Science of Mind, page 81. So spirit in this Zoom is being Samantha, is being Pat, is being Reverend Carolyn, is being Maruk and Susan, and each and every one of you in this moment. Spirit is expressing out of an impulse to love in, through, and as you. Thus, when we engage in giving and receiving love, we cultivate more of that activity in our relationships and everything around us, everywhere we are. When we know we are loved and we are loving, it generates that atmosphere, and it then activates the limitless potentials for good that spirit has for all of us. So let's launch into this marvelous opportunity by getting together about the words love and spectrum. Love on a spectrum. Okay. So in many ways, the English language does misuse the word love. Germanic languages are short and sweet, and we have one word for whether we're talking about the love of our lives, which might be ourselves, might be spirit, might be our partners or our kids. And then it's the same word we use for the fact that we love pizza or Saturday nights. There is actually a psychological term that describes this challenge when overuse or misuse of any word causes it to lose the felt sense meaning and experience. That term is called semantic cessation, or I'm sorry, I mispronounce this every time. Semantic satiation, like we're oversaturated with the word to the point where we can no longer feel it. And yet we're not really given all that many options for this word that we tend to use. I suppose if you're creative and you stop and think about it, you could, but we're going to talk today a little bit more about how to touch into expressive love without necessarily using that word. How else can we put that? And so first, what's the difference between the word love that we overuse and the word love where we're saying, say I love you as much as you can? There's got to be a difference there, because right there we have a polarized opposite. In one way, it's overused, and in one way, we're saying we need to do more of it. Okay, so the difference there is what we're speaking from. When we're speaking from the depth of our regard, our heartfelt sincerity for someone or something in our lives, and that comes relatively naturally for most of us about certain people or certain things in our most intimate lives, it's easy. But how are we supposed to authentically transfer that feeling of love to the rest of the world that we're not as connected to? We're not as attached. We don't understand as much. And so this is what we're all about right now in this discussion. And so we're going to engage God qualities in our thoughts and feelings. God qualities are the divine of spirit revealed through options of expressing love with a breath of fresh air. Dr. Sannar quoted Thomas Troward saying, "The individual experiences the divine as an energy that is the fundamental blueprint for the creation of everything in the universe. This fundamental essence are described by Thomas Troward as not only love, but there's this collective, and it's kind of almost poetic, including love. It's light, life, love, peace, power, beauty, and joy." So I'm going to go through those a little slower. Just take a breath and see where this lands for you. If you could imagine that we're saying there's only one love, but when you're looking to connect that to your emotions, that if you can find that expression of love through light, life, love, peace, power, beauty, and joy, when we contemplate these as the divine essence, we then become that essence. Now, let's look at how spirit expresses love on a spectrum through us. What does that mean? So, Vernon, if you could put up the next slide. So, most all of you, when you think about it, are probably well aware that a spectrum is the band of colors that we see in a rainbow. And there's other spectrums too. A spectrum basically speaks to when there's two what seem to be polarized opposites, that actually the reality is everything in between as well. And everything between two opposites is a spectrum. So this image illustrates how love expresses from universal spirit, which is oneness, into the spectrum of the physical world that we have in our experiences. Spirit is the source, and that source in the image is that golden light that's actually there pinpointed there at the bottom and streaming upward. That's the pure source of spirit. Or in the case of an actual rainbow, that would be the sun, which is universal. You know, the light of the sun, when the sun is up and is not being blocked by clouds, it's everywhere. Okay, so you have the universal source that streams through a prism. And in this case, our individual use of consciousness is the prism. So total universal potential streams through our use of it. And where those two connect, like you see there in that intensity, right there in the center of that prism, that starburst, that's where they meet. And then where they meet determines the outcome of the streaming of the rainbow on the actual physical expression. And so this is true of rainbows. It's true of us. Actually, it's true of the creative process in general. And this is where it's so important to realize that we have agency about spirit meeting us where we show up. That stream of the kaleidoscope rainbow that comes through our lives, we can determine where we're going to meet that stream coming through us. We have use of universal mind, We're supported by the universal heart. We're one in universal soul. The soul level is the level of the law. And for those of you who've never heard that before, that's part of our teaching. But when you realize that when you come into an alignment with being one with the source from which you can't come, you can't get separated from it. And the more you know that you are one with that source, the more you're coming from the purity of that source, which is the essence of love. That's when we then have full power of choice, what we experience in what results in form. And so, just for some examples, when what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what you believe aren't exactly in alignment, if you could imagine that the sun streaming through you as a prism of spirit, if there's not an alignment there in that crystal, say, it's like looking at the examples from Masaru Emoto. If there's chaos going on in there, then what's going to come out of that reflection is going to look like chaos. But when we're clear and when we are intending to come from that place of the essence of love, then by nature, it naturally comes out more the way that we choose. So now, it's one thing to practice this within ourselves, but then how in the world do we do this with everything that we see around us? Because it's easy to sit here and say everything is love, but then you go out in the world and at any turn, it can come up as really, really challenging. So if I can't authentically feel what feels like love to me, because love is very subjective. And so each of us can know what we're talking about, but then how that feels to me and how that feels to you is going to be unique. And so I can't force myself to look at someone I don't know and don't understand and just say, I love you. I mean, I can give it lip service. I could say those words, and that might not be a bad place to start. But how do we generate that feeling when it doesn't come so much naturally? And here is where I believe Jim Henson and his gift to us in the universe of the Muppets, he left the world such a model for us because he created a colorful character for just about every human emotion possible and made them all doubtlessly lovable. So, as of this week, once this first time I had seen that video. And so after I saw that video and I saw the whole spectrum of the human condition, by the time you see all the Muppets gathered together, I said to myself, when I'm seeing something that inspires my doubts or my fears or irritates me, I have started asking myself, what would Jim Henson do? And for those of us who like our acronyms, that's WWJHD, WWJHD. What would Jim Henson do? Now, also, when we're out in the world and we're engaging things and we're really consciously choosing to stretch ourselves in being able to apply the belief that there is love, and that's what we all come from. This is where we need also to remember what Marianne Williamson teaches. All human behavior is either love or a call for love. No matter what it is, if it's a mess, if it doesn't work for us, if it feels like chaos or any kind of a challenge in our experience, in our vessel of spirit, if it's moving through as anything other than love, we need to stop and remember it's coming from a call for love. So, in response to behaviors that are not acceptable to continue, we can set boundaries around the behavior while at the same time acting from, remembering that it's coming from a place of love, even if we don't understand it. So, as we recognize that whatever's going on actually has its source in love, that when we come from that inside, even if we have to say no or disagree or create something to create safety in the world, we can do it from love. And that's what also opens us up to allow the mystery of the knowledge that Spirit has that we don't, to show us the way. So, one way to use the power of perspective and how we can apply the divine qualities of God to expand our perception and expression from others is to remember, if I can't exactly feel love, can I look at this person or this situation and say, where do I find light? Or where do I see that light is called for? Where do I find that this is actually an expression of life, even if I don't understand it? The impulse to life is there, and life is good. Life is affirming. And then, of course, there's love. Or where can I see either peace or the desire for peace in this situation? And if there's a desire for peace, how can I help to bring it? The same thing with power. If it's a situation I don't understand, authentic power never harms anyone. Authentic power is from the purity of spirit and is never harmful. So when we see things going on in the world that feel like brutality or someone attacking me or someone else, if we can remember that it looks very powerful, but in fact, if it's true authentic power, it's going to look like love. Then we can remember, how can I bring the power of love to it and not be afraid, by recognizing that whatever that misalignment is not in itself powerful, it's an effect. So then also beauty. How can I look into the face of, Cookie Monster with his mouth full of, cookies, and the different things that happen, excesses and battles and different things. A lot of the Muppets have actually shadow figure expressions. They look scary. How can I look into those faces and recognize that they're beautiful and lovable? And joy. For me, joy is a state. It's not a temporary experience. Joy is that state that comes from within. And as I was working through this for myself, I realized that when we can roll with this and remember these divine qualities of God actually come with love in everything that is, then it settles me into a broader sense of joy that even in appearances, everything's going to be all right. We just have to keep trusting the process. Now, what do we do when it absolutely appears that love is out, it's not there, not going to be there? How do we return to trusting that mystery? And when I was thinking about how to present this, two beautiful things came along for me. One is, I remember the very first day I got to Reverend Jesse Jennings' church, and I came up the stairs into the sanctuary and I sat down and we started talking, and I was describing the place I was coming from. And he was telling me that spirit is all there is and it expresses through everything. And so it can work out if you come from that alignment. And I took that on and I said something like, well, okay, but how am I going to know that in advance? And he said, well, one of the challenges you have is you need to let go of wanting a sure thing. You need to let go of projecting that if you don't see it ahead of you, then you're not going to believe it, because it happens in the unfolding moment. And so he said, work on releasing your need for a sure thing. And oh my goodness, you guys, I mean, that was the first pearl of wisdom I got from him. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, what have I done? Here I go. And that's still something I practice to this day. When I find myself looking at something and saying, that I want to be sure ahead of time that this is going to work out, or I'm not going to dance with it. And we just have to learn to let that go and be willing to trust the process, that love will lead the way. So then I found a lovely story out of Hindu tradition, through a man named Alan Watts. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Alan Watts, but he wrote a book called The Book on the Taboo Against Knowing Who You Are. My oldest brother gave me that book when I graduated from high school, and I've never forgotten it. And so I found a lecture by Alan Watts where he was talking about, actually, it attracted me because the title of the lecture was The Spectrum of Love. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to listen to this. So here was this story in here, and it's about there is a Hindu student and the student's master, and the student has just came away from the master knowing, okay, everything is Brahma, everything is love, I'm good, I'm going to walk as Brahma, and everything I run into is going to be Brahma. And so the student goes down the road, just happy as peaches, and all of a sudden in front of him on a narrow road is a huge elephant, and the elephant has a mahout, and they're doing whatever work they're doing, but there isn't room on the road for both the guy and the elephant who is approaching him. And the man says, I'm all good. I'll just keep right on walking because I'm God and the elephant is God, and this is not going to be a problem. And as they approach, the mahout says, Sir, kind sir, please, please get out of the way. This elephant is an angry elephant, and he's not going to be kind about this. But the man says, oh no, I'm spirit, the elephant is spirit, this is not going to be a problem. And what do you think happened? The elephant and the man clashed. The elephant took his trunk and just picked him up and set him aside. And so the man gets up, as we are prone to do. I know I've done this. The man gets up and says, my goodness, what did I do wrong? God must not love me. And he goes back to his master. He says, Master, master, what happened? I saw myself as love. I saw the elephant as love, and it was a disaster. And the master said, also, the voice of the mahout that gave you the warning is also an expression of pure love. And that's where we get back to recognizing the primacy of the law of nature. The nature of the elephant was not to make room for the other being, and it was clearly put out there. And so we need to remember that as we're looking at the world and we're coming from the place, yes, it is all love, but it's all equally love, all the parts. We can't selectively, as human beings are prone to do, we can't selectively set aside the most challenging thing, like the voice that says, don't do that, just because we want to anyway. And so, just to give one other example of this, because people often ask, well, if I just believe that I could wear a cape and fly off a building, am I going to fly like Superman because I believe it? Well, no, natural law is not going to support that. So we have to work with the truth of how the law works in creation and respect all parts of it. And if we don't yet understand all parts of it, that's part of the mystery. We need to open ourselves up to that and say, okay, how does this work? But stay available from that place of the well of infinite love that will then bring us infinite wisdom. And so the last piece I want to share is the way that Dr. Sannar taught us about how to come down to the power of the word. You open yourself up and ask spirit to enter your awareness. You feel yourself entering the energy field of love. You allow yourself to become immersed in waves of love energy. You meditate and focus on love energy. Then say to yourself, I am the energy of universal love. This love fills my whole being. Now, just be in the energy of love. Allow the waves of love to flow over you and through you. At some point, that wave of love collapses into a particle of thought. Allow the thought to take form from the essence of love. This is your inspiration, which comes directly from love. As the thought takes form, it becomes your word. Your word is automatically planted in creative mind as the answer to your prayer before you've even spoken it, in accordance with the law. So each day this week, try setting your intention to see and hear and feel everything around you as an expression of love, either being given or received. We are both the givers and the receivers. Try it in your own experience. Try it with the people and things around you. And when it gets really challenging, stop and remember WWJHD. What would Jim Henson do? And on that note, we take up this practice so beautifully, eloquently expressed by Dr. Tom Sannar. And we remember first to thoughtlessly realize that we are immersed in universal, everlasting, inexhaustible love. It is our very breath. It is the consciousness from which we draw our universal use of mind. It is our very heartbeat. Allowing it to sink in and collapse into the individual word. I recognize one. And because that one is all, I am one with it, as is each person within the sound of my voice, and we are one unified together. And from this alignment in mind, heart, and soul, I realize in my experience of each person within the sound of my voice right here and right now, that what has been up for being given and received has been given and received and is made manifest according to the highest possible good in each individual experience and collectively. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. I release it, I let it be, and so it is.
Thank you, Vicky. Well, we're up to prosperity time, and I usually have my basket to hold, but Butters is sleeping right in front of it. So rather than disturb him, Vicky has hers, and so we're going to look at hers today, and we're going to say, I'm going to say your affirmation, and then we'll say it together. Having the courage to love out loud prospers my life in every way. Say it with me, if you will. Having the courage to love out loud prospers my life in every way. And you will see in the chat the various ways that you can donate. We so appreciate what you do donate because it keeps us alive and prospering and has for well over a decade. And so we thank you very much. Vicky, would you like to bless that?
I would, Pat. Thank you so much. I take up this word as a continuum of flow, that cycle of circulation that we are so aware of. Your time, talents, and treasures symbolically and literally move through Pat's consciousness into what happens here on Sundays with the symbolic blessing of this basket that is like blessing the fish and the loaves. I absolutely know that every intention that is put out in mind, every feeling that it is invested with, and every penny, every dollar, every check, every Givelify, every PayPal, every way that we are given, that spirit meets that gift where it shows up in spirit and is then manifest in form in this multiplicitous way that spirit takes and multiplies to the highest level of good, for which we are so grateful. I release it, I let it be, and so it is.
So it is. All right, announcements. Next week's speaker is our own Miss Vicky Jeter, and her topic will be
in process. If anyone dreams of or meditates or what have you, if you know the angel of the Lord drops before you and says, this is the topic for next week, tell Vicky, by all means, text me, call me. It's coming, but I'm saying it is a work in process.
Okay. And you've seen this a couple weeks, and it's getting close. We're going to have a fall class, 10 weeks, The Essential Ernest Holmes. This is a book compiled by Reverend Jesse Jennings of the writings of Ernest Holmes. There's so many, but he did his best to pick out the really great ones. The class is $150. 50 goes to the certification through CSL, and the rest comes here, pays our instructors, and gives a little income to the center. So if you would like to learn more about Ernest Holmes and this philosophy, this is the class for you. Contact Vicky. Our tech support, our tech department could use a little more support. So if you would like to get a little training on how you can let people in on Zoom on Sundays, so that Vernon can handle, he needs like 4 hands and he only has 2. And so more people to help would be a good thing. So you can contact Vicky or Vernon for details about what that would look like. Anybody could do it, I think. Okay, Wednesday's Wistful Wisdom. I have not done this. It's a social hour that's every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Zoom. I believe that this started with a few of our senior members, and I don't know what it's involved in. Vicky, do you want to add a little more?
I really do. I think today is a good day to do that because actually our anchor is Miss Samantha, and we have so much fun. And anybody of any age could have fun doing this. And it might be that there's a better time. So just this morning, Samantha and Maruk and someone else, forgive me, I'm not remembering who our third person, Pam. Actually, it started out Pam and Samantha, and then Maruk got on board. We're going to pick a time for the 3 of them. And if more would like to pick a different time, if we can find a time that's better for more people to enjoy this, I'm open to that. So we'll see what happens, and then I'll keep y'all posted.
Okay. And this is our unexpected income initiative. And what I wanted to say about this is our goal of $5,000 is $5,000 that we hope the community gets as unexpected income. I mean, we would love to have it at LCSL, but this was our goal for you because we're trying to bring us all in as a group to manifest more prosperity in our life. And thus far, in the weeks that we've been doing this, it looks like $3,900 for the community. And then when the community benefits from unexpected income, LCSL gets a portion of that, or can receive a portion of that, because that's the way it flows. And thus far, we've been gifted $257, and it might be a little more than that because I might have gotten some in this week that Vicky doesn't know about and didn't put on the slide. So that's a very good thing. So that's the difference between the two slides. And I will tell you that just the energy that we have put around prosperity in our own lives and in our sinners' lives has made a difference. And you will see that coming up when our bookkeeper is finished with our August numbers. Okay, after the benediction, we will have a little sharing time where you can ask questions if you have them, or tell us about something important that's happened in your life. So please stay if you can. Oh, and last but not least, I want to say very emphatically, you are magnificent. So say it with me. You are magnificent. Say that to yourself a few times this week. I am magnificent. And know it, because you are. You truly, truly are.
Oh my goodness. This is one of those times where that could be our closing. But if you choose, say with me our benediction, please. Ultimately, we shall see that the universe rests on the shoulder of love, that God is love, and that all the errors of man are the result of ignorance of his own true nature. And evolving soul judges no one, condemns no one, but realizes that all are on the road of experience, seeking the same goal, and that each must ultimately find his own home in heaven within.